The man's arm was scorched by the burning sun. A beam of 3,600 degrees sunlight shot directly to Earth. Suddenly, a mysterious hole appeared in the ozone layer. The once cold seawater boiled instantly. As the hole in the ozone layer continued to expand, the sunlight was about to reach the Golden Gate Bridge. The boy with glasses hurriedly closed the car window and turned on the air conditioning. The railings on the bridge were sizzling with oil from the intense heat. At this moment, the boy realized something unusual was happening. Soon, the bridge melted under the extreme temperature and began to break apart. People tried to drive away, but the tires melted due to the high heat. The bridge could not withstand the heat, and it snapped in the middle. Cars began to explode one after another, spilling into the sea like a flowing river. The disaster continued to spread, and the scorching sunlight that could destroy everything was moving toward the city across the sea. The seawater turned into boiling magma, destroying everything in its path. The heat wave, like a tsunami, reduced all the buildings to ashes in an instant. The destruction of an entire city took just over a minute. The firestorm kept advancing, rampaging through the places we depend on for survival. Yet, all of this was humanity's own doing. 3 months ago, strange phenomena began to appear worldwide. Patients with pacemakers started dropping dead simultaneously. Local governments immediately began investigations. In this prestigious school, they found geology expert Josh while he was teaching. They went to a mysterious research base. Here, Josh met weaponry expert Zimsky. The two top experts came together, mainly to investigate the strange incident, where people with pacemakers suddenly died. The military feared it was an enemy nation using some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon. If so, it would be incredibly frightening. But the two experts believed this was impossible. Currently, humans are not capable of creating electromagnetic pulses of such high intensity. Hearing this answer, the general finally calmed down. However, the strange phenomena did not stop there. Flocks of birds started mysteriously falling from the sky, as if they had lost their sense of direction. The entire city was shrouded in an eerie atmosphere. The chaotic flight of the birds caused multiple car accidents. People could only hide, trembling in fear, leaving behind streets filled with dead pigeons. The media rushed to report the incident. Josh also began to feel that something was very wrong. Similar incidents had been occurring frequently lately. After thinking for a moment, Josh suddenly realized something was seriously wrong. Birds like pigeons navigate using the Earth's magnetic field. If the Earth's magnetic field was malfunctioning, it would be a major problem, leading to abnormal weather and other strange phenomena. They urgently needed to collect data on these anomalies. Meanwhile, a spacecraft above Earth was preparing to return, but for some reason, it deviated from its set course. Oddly enough, the spacecraft's systems showed no issues. With the craft getting closer and closer to the ground, the pilot decided to attempt a risky emergency landing. The command center began to urgently scan for a landing site. But during rush hour, it was difficult to find an available runway. Captain Beck made a decision. He chose a nearby river canal that was still under construction. Time was running out, so he had no choice but to deploy the landing gear. The airship landed smoothly. The height of the bridge ahead was just enough for the airship to pass through, but there were construction workers ahead, busy at work. One worker, wearing headphones, was completely unaware of the danger approaching. Fortunately, the airship came to a halt just in time, avoiding a disaster. Geologist Josh, after a series of precise calculations, reached a terrifying conclusion. The Earth's core was about to stop rotating. He immediately reported this finding to Robert at the Department of Defense, claiming that the Earth was on the brink of an unstoppable disaster. As Robert carefully reviewed Josh's data, he realized the situation was even worse than they had imagined. If the Earth's core stopped rotating, it would mean the end of the world. The Department of Defense convened an emergency meeting right away. The top officials invited Josh to explain the consequences of the Earth's core stopping its rotation. The Earth is surrounded by an electromagnetic field made up of currents and magnetism. This field protects us from various forms of radiation from space, most notably solar radiation. And this electromagnetic field is created by the Earth's core rotation. To give an example, imagine the Earth as a peach. Its skin represents the Earth's crust, which is about 30 miles thick. The flesh is like the mantle, around 2,000 miles thick. The core is divided into the inner and outer core. The inner core is like a big piece of iron, surrounded by the liquid outer core, rotating in one direction, which in turn creates the electromagnetic field. The Earth's core is like the engine of the planet. If it stops turning, anomalies will start to occur. In the coming months, various electronic devices would begin to spontaneously combust. There would be static discharges, leading to thunderstorms. Radioactive particles and microwaves from solar radiation would cause devastating damage to the Earth. The officials were terrified by this explanation, quickly asking if the core could be artificially restarted. But Josh said there was no way to reach the core. It was impossible to penetrate the 2,000 miles of mantle, let alone withstand the 9,000-degree heat at the core. No material could survive such conditions. Robert then mentioned that he knew of an expert who might be able to solve this problem. They then took a helicopter to a research facility in the desert. Brazelton had been researching laser technology for over 20 years. This technology might help them break through the Earth's layers. It was a high-powered laser cannon. The scientists decided to test it on a nearby mountain. As Brazelton activated the device, the laser began to rotate and charge up. It fired at the mountain wall in the distance. The flying dust made it hard to see if the process was successful. Brazelton turned off the machine, and as the dust settled, everyone was stunned. A smooth hole had been drilled straight through the thick mountain. This gave them a bit of hope that they might be able to penetrate the Earth's core. But the 9,000-degree heat of the core remained a significant issue. They still needed a special material to withstand the extreme temperatures. Brazelton then introduced his next invention. He first placed a white mouse inside a box made of special material. Then, he activated a small laser cannon. The laser beam had a temperature of at least tens of thousands of degrees. Yet, the box remained unharmed, and the white mouse was perfectly fine. Brazelton explained that the box was made of a new material, formed by combining tungsten-titanium matrix with crystals. This material not only resisted high temperatures, but it also absorbed heat and pressure, converting them into kinetic energy. With this material, they could build a drill ship that, combined with the laser cannon, could easily reach the Earth's core. But they now faced a new problem. At the current pace, building such a drill ship would take at least 10 years. In fact, the project's theory had long been developed, but what was missing was the funding to start it. Now, with the support of the Department of Defense, Brazelton led tens of thousands of workers, working tirelessly to construct the drill ship. Meanwhile, the drill ship's crew was being carefully selected. Among them were the pilot of the crashed space shuttle, Josh, and several other geologists, 6 in total. Their mission was to pilot the drill ship into the Earth's core and detonate a 200-megaton nuclear bomb, using the explosion's shockwave to restart the core's rotation. Through day and night efforts by the workers, the drill ship began to take shape. The 6 crew members continued with their simulation training. One day, dark storm clouds suddenly appeared in the sky, indicating that Earth's magnetic field was growing weaker by the day. The apocalypse seemed to be approaching faster than anticipated. In Rome, thunderclouds suddenly gathered in the sky. TVs mysteriously lost their signals. Some people tried to restart their TVs, but high-intensity static electricity caught them off guard. The thunderstorm in the sky intensified, with dozens of lightning strikes bombarding the Roman Colosseum. The ground was split open by the sheer force of the strikes. Each lightning bolt was as powerful as a missile. Statues were instantly shattered. As the super lightning strikes continued, Rome was devastated beyond recognition. Seeing the disaster unfold across the globe, the drilling mission became more urgent than ever. The 6 crew members immediately headed to the Mariana Trench. This was where their journey would begin. Once everyone was ready, the pilot activated the controls, and the drill ship began to operate at full power. It had 6 sections and 1 main cabin. Since the Mariana Trench was the deepest point on Earth, starting here would minimize the energy and time required. As they were about to reach the deepest part of the ocean, the crust nearby suddenly cracked open. Seawater rushed in, creating a massive vortex. The drill ship was trapped inside. They decided to use the vortex's accelerating force to propel themselves further toward the core. Then, they activated the laser system to pierce through the rock. The drill ship burrowed into the Earth's crust through the tunnel. At this pace, they would reach the core in just 1 day. For the first 15 minutes, everything went smoothly. They passed through the Earth's crust and reached the mantle, where everything was molten lava. The external pressure on the ship was now at 800,000 pounds. Once they confirmed that the ship was holding up fine, they finally relaxed. But would the rest of the journey be just as smooth? Half a day passed. As the drilling ship descended to 800 miles, Ahead of them was a vast, impenetrable substance. Could it be an element unknown to mankind? Josh instantly realized it wasn't any substance, but rather a void. They were about to reach a hollow space within the sea of magma. The problem was, the drilling ship had no flying capability. The team quickly fastened their seatbelts. The ship, previously descending through magma, hit something solid. They pierced through a layer of crystal, entering a vast emptiness. The ship plummeted rapidly, yet, despite the impact and skidding, it remained undamaged. The problem now was, the laser cannon's muzzle was blocked by a massive crystal. They had no choice but to put on heat-resistant suits and manually clear it. Surrounding them was an endless stretch of amethyst, a sealed environment that, at a glance, resembled a starry sky. Everyone marveled at nature's craftsmanship. They began using small laser tools to cut through the crystal pillars. A drop of magma fell from above. Josh noticed that magma was flowing through the opening. The surrounding crystals also started collapsing, posing extreme danger. If they didn't speed up, they'd be buried in magma. Brazelton increased the cutting power to its maximum. At the critical moment, the laser device ran out of oxygen. There wasn't enough time to replenish it. Josh quickly disconnected his own oxygen supply and hooked it up to the laser device, passing out from oxygen deprivation. Fortunately, Brazelton managed to cut through the crystal in time. They carried the unconscious Josh back into the ship for resuscitation. After confirming the laser cannon was operational, one crew member was about to return to the ship when a high-temperature crystal shard fell from above. His helmet was shattered, and he died instantly. They restarted the ship and plunged back into the magma, continuing their journey to the Earth's core. The ship was about to reach the outer core. Zinsky began adjusting the nuclear bomb's timer. Then, another incident occurred. They stumbled upon an area full of diamonds. If one of the giant diamonds were to scratch the ship's hull, it would be extremely dangerous. Beck skillfully maneuvered the ship through the narrow diamond crevices. Just as they thought the danger had passed, another sharp, giant diamond appeared. The last section of the hull was damaged and began to deform. At that moment, they were inside that section of the ship. Upon receiving the warning, they quickly evacuated. Zinsky suddenly realized the nuclear bomb's controller was still inside. He rushed back. Retrieving the unfinished controller, the hatch was already closing by then. He could only pass the two crucial items to Josh as the ship began to warp and deform. They had no choice but to jettison that section of the ship. Watching yet another teammate perish, there were now only 4 out of the original 6 left. But the mission had to go on. The drilling ship finally reached the outer core. The outer core was composed of liquid, under immense pressure, and at extremely high temperatures. In less than 5 hours, they would reach the inner core. But Josh realized the density here was lower than their predictions. Brazelton input the actual density into the computer, and the result showed that the nuclear payload they carried wouldn't be enough to restart the core's rotation. This meant the mission was doomed to fail. Robert then revealed a shocking secret. He contacted the Surface Command Center and requested the general to initiate the backup Destiny plan. It turned out the US had been secretly developing a seismic device, which could fire pulses into the Earth's core to trigger massive earthquakes. The US intended to use it as a weapon to intimidate other countries. But the experiment had caused the core to stop rotating. The true culprit behind the disaster was them. Now that the core explosion plan had failed, they had no choice but to reactivate the seismic device. But the consequences were unpredictable. The command center ordered the drilling crew to return and await further instructions. But the crew refused to give up, deciding to continue with the original core explosion plan. The command center stated they wouldn't halt the Destiny plan's execution. If the team couldn't solve the problem before the seismic device was activated, they would all perish. After countless simulations, the nuclear bomb's power was still insufficient. At that moment, Robert had a sudden realization. They could use the liquid nature of the outer core. Just like when you toss small stones into a pond, it creates ripples. If you break a large stone into smaller pieces, each small stone's ripple will help the next stone create a larger ripple. This is fluid dynamics. 5 small explosions would be more effective than 1 big one. They simulated Robert's method, and it worked. But this required extremely precise timing. The nuclear bombs couldn't withstand the pressure and heat for long. They had to place the timed bombs in separated compartments of the ship. Luckily, the 5 sections of the ship could each carry a bomb. They would then ride the main ship back to the surface, but the drilling ship couldn't separate undamaged compartments. unless someone manually opened the pistons. In the heat insulation layer between the ship's outer hull and its compartments, the temperature was thousands of degrees. Whoever went there would die for sure. Brazelton volunteered. He had designed this ship. He was willing to complete the mission to save the Earth. As soon as he opened the hatch, a wave of heat hit him, making it nearly impossible to move. The wrench in his hand melted within seconds due to the extreme heat. He endured immense pain. His shoe soles were already burning. Luckily, the piston wasn't far. He opened the piston's insulation cover. Using his last bit of strength, he successfully disconnected the main shaft from the other compartments. Brazelton had no strength left. He asked Beck to fire the thrusters to end his life quickly. With the thrusters engaged, Brazelton was instantly turned to ashes. Josh and Robert hurried to set the nuclear bomb's countdowns. After leaving the compartment, Beck separated the ship's sections from the control room. Just as they were setting the fourth bomb, they suddenly realized that their previous calculations seemed wrong. The fifth bomb needed 30% more power to achieve the desired effect. At that moment, the ship was hit by a burst of flame, causing a violent shake. Josh got trapped under the bomb. Unable to move, Josh told Robert to leave first. At the same time, Beck corrected the ship's course with a sudden acceleration. The strong inertia caused the bomb to shift again. Robert, who had fallen, was pinned down by the rolling bomb on his right foot. Seeing the hatch about to close, Robert pushed Josh out of the compartment. He himself was separated with the section from the main ship. Josh decided to use the ship's nuclear fuel as a boost for the fifth bomb's power. This also meant they would have no propulsion to escape. The reactor was extremely hot to handle. Touching it would cause burns and pain, but there was no other choice. He endured the intense pain and dragged the reactor to the bomb. Without a power source, the only thing they could do was wait for death. As the countdown ended, the first bomb finally detonated. Josh remembered that tungsten titanium alloy could absorb heat and convert it into kinetic energy. They could rely on the Earth's core's extreme temperature to power the ship. The two of them immediately connected the nuclear reactor's circuits to the converter. At this point, the second and third bombs had already detonated in succession. Sure enough, the ship's propulsion was restored. By now, all 5 bombs had exploded, propelling the main ship out of the Earth's core at an incredible speed. In just a few hours, they would return to the surface. At that moment, the command center detected intense activity in the core. The core had regained its energy and reactivated. This meant the Destiny plan could be cancelled. The doomsday crisis was finally averted. As the electromagnetic field gradually recovered, the strange phenomena around the world also began to disappear. For hours past, the drilling ship successfully broke through the surface and returned to the ocean floor. Without power, it couldn't move any further. Luckily, the command center pinpointed their location, deploying military forces to retrieve the ship from the ocean depths. Although this movie wasn't perfect, its imaginative depiction of the Earth's core deserves praise. The film ends here. Thank you all for watching.